Well, these two teams meet again. They met last year in the opener of 2024. We know what it was like in the AFC Championship game in 2023. But both teams are 1-2. Yes, it's the Ravens and the Chiefs. Late Sunday afternoon at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. But is it the 1-2-2 zone? Anyway, this edition of Defending the Kingdom is brought to you as always by Ticketmaster, your new best friends, especially with the spectacular home schedule.
Now he pump fakes right, throws for the end zone, and the pass is caught. Tyquan Thornton, touchdown, Kansas City.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs, along with senior team reporter Matt McMullen, and we are in the 1-2-2 zone. What are we talking about? Well, first of all, did you play basketball?
So I was a great disappointment to my mom who played college basketball. You're going to be shocked by this. I'm a pretty mediocre basketball player. I did not play basketball.
I saw you
in
block
high
a
school.
shot at training camp, though.
Well, so you say that.
That was wicked.
For those listening, if you're curious, the most fundamental basketball player I've ever seen is you. You are an awesome basketball player and like the ultimate fundamental. Nailing shots.
You came flying out and blocked this shot, and I'm like, was that Matt? But anyway,
I have energy and hustle. That's about it.
Oh, you've got some talent.
No.
Anyway, the 1-2-2 zone.
Got my dad's genes.
The 1-2-2 zone in basketball has been there, still there. In the fact that, it looks there's a guy at the top, two, and then two. But it can also be extended to a three-quarters court defense or even a full court defense. But we're in the 1-2-2 zone. We're not going to talk about basketball, so don't flip out on his. We are in the 1-2-2 zone because both the Chiefs and Ravens are 1-2. One of these teams will then go to the next part of the zone, which will be 2-2. So both teams are not used to being 1-2, although the Ravens were last year and then end up going 11-5 and winning the division. But that's where we are. And so we're in the 1-2-2 zone right here. But before we do anything, let's go around the world. But even before we go around the world, you and I had an experience of a lifetime last week.
Yeah, we did. So for those that don't know, Mitch and I went out early to New York to go visit West Point. He has some friends out there that could show us around. Man, we could do a whole podcast on how incredible our adventure was. But we get out there on Thursday night. They pick us up. We go up to West Point, about an hour away from New York City. And we spent all Friday getting a tour of Post, which was unbelievable. We got to go in places that normal civilians can't go in. Then went to the game, the Army game against North Texas, that if you were following along, went to overtime. It was an incredible game. We were there in the stands on Saturday, then met up with the rest of the team when they got to New York on Saturday night. But yeah, unbelievable experience.
Incredible Kingdom Defenders were our main host and hostess. That's Chris and Sherry McGowan, who are the co-brigade commanders of the Irish Brigade of the Chiefs Kingdom. They've been there in a staple and defending the kingdom day to day. Amazing people and terrific host and hostess for our weekend on Post.
And we got that Airbnb near Post that was like, this house was like 150 years old. It was super cool, but it was a little bit strange because the house was very old and obviously had been refurbished, but it was decorated with like 1960s artwork. Like I had pictures of like James Dean and like Marilyn Monroe in my room.
Elvis Presley,
like his mugshot.
Kind of an eclectic group of pictures.
And there was like a chicken coop in the back, and there was like a marmot walking by. There's a deer in the backyard.
It's like a woodchuck or something.
It's strange because we're only an hour away from New York, which is like the most built up place ever, and we're like in the woods basically. But West Point was amazing. I mean, the whole experience was amazing. Like I said, we could talk forever about it. Seeing these young people that are devoting their lives to that. Saying that they don't need to do the normal college experience where you're just hanging out with your friends and trying to maximize fun and all that. Like these people are so committed and dedicated to just defending our country. And it was so cool to see that kind of process occurring with these incredibly focused individuals who all they care about is bettering this country and making our country the best place that we can possibly live in, and they're going to defend it for us so we can do stuff like talk about football. So it was an amazing experience. Everyone that we met and everyone that made our experience what it was, thank you very much.
And Sean McGowan, who's a firstie's a senior. If you're one of the 1,100 seniors, generally in the class of 26, But Sean has been a longtime member of the Irish Brigade for the Chiefs Kingdom. He was a specialist. Now he's going to become a second lieutenant soon. So anyway, he was there. But there's two other guys I want to mention because they left an imprint. Well, I've known one for a while, but Mike McElrath, who's in the Army Hall of Fame for sports. And Mike's now a Chiefs Kingdom defender, the all-time leading tackler in Army history, played for Bob Sutton back in the early 90s. And Bob, of course, was defensive coordinator here in the early years of Coach Reed. But Mike McElrath is a stud.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say about that guy.
So I would not want to be a receiver coming over the middle if Mike McElrath was nearby. Just you shake his hand, you just see him when he smiles at you, like this guy could still play, I think.
It was so fun during the game. We're all high-fiving and hugging and going crazy.
Mitch and I are just watching a football game. We never get to do this. We were in the stands at a football game. It's
so
going
cool.
crazy. And if you didn't watch the game, basically North Texas looked like they were going to run away with it. It was 28-7 at one point.
Yes, sir.
And Army comes storming back. They're still down by 10, I think, with about 3 minutes left. But they hit like a Minneapolis Miracle style play where the DB on fourth down was backing up, trying to pick it off inexplicably. But the receiver got behind the defense, caught it, scores a touchdown. Well, the Mean Green are just going to run the clock out, but they can't take a knee yet because there's still some time left, like 2 minutes left, and Army has timeouts. They have to run some plays. They hand it off to the running back, immediately fumbles. Army gets the ball, goes down, kicks a field goal, ties it, goes to overtime. Their quarterback got hurt, so they end up losing in overtime. But, I mean, you and I were just like jumping up and down,
We were
high-fiving
10 years
people.
old again.
It was so much fun.
It was
yeah.
10. I was 10 years old.
It was a
It's
blast.
the greatest.
It was an absolute blast. Like, what a cool weekend. And to
But
share it
Michael
with you was awesome.
it was great. But and thanks to the McGowans. But Mike McElrath is so excited about the tying field goal or whatever. He like punches Lucas Boyd by mistake. But Lucas, who's on our 65 TPT crew, was like, "Man, I took a punch from Mike McElrath." Like,
he was like massaging his face, like, "Oh, this is so awesome!" But I'm pretty sure he punched me in the face. Yeah, shout out to Luke. Yeah, you don't know Luke's name, but Luke's behind a lot of the amazing content that you see on Cheese Social. He was along for the trip as well. So I'll put some photos from our trip on the video version of the podcast so people can see it.
It hurts so much, but it feels so good. And then a guy named Wayne Green who left an impression.
Yes, he did.
Wayne Green is a stud. He was on the chief of staff. At the United States Military Academy, and he got in with when Superintendent Caslin was there, who was a huge Chiefs fan when he was at Leavenworth. So was Wayne when he was stationed here as well. But here's Wayne Green, who's a leading executive of a big company called MCOR, and then a guy was on chief of staff at the United States Military Academy, and just an impressive guy. He loves the Chiefs now, and. But watching him during the game was the greatest.
Well, so we met him at our tailgate, which, first of all, Mitch and I going to a tailgate was great. I can't remember the last time I tailgated at a football game, but that was so much fun. And we meet him, and he's very just polite and kind of soft-spoken and friendly and just totally normal guy, right? Well, he has seats that are closer to the field, and we eventually make eye contact with him. And it reminded me of, who's the guy at Jets games that's like, rallying
Fireman Ed.
He reminded me of Fireman Ed.
Yeah, he's like
the guy trying to get everyone riled up, like, come on, get up, and like, calling people out if they were sitting down, and like he was like veins popping out of his neck. Like he willed that Army team to overtime, I think.
So Wayne Green, Mike McElrath, and then the entire Irish Brigade, especially the wonderful Chiefs fans and Kingdom defenders, Chris and Sharon McGowan, and they have served our nation in so many ways, more than it'd be a whole other podcast. All right, to the matter at hand, the 1-2-2 zone, two teams that are 1-2 in the Chiefs and Ravens, two talented teams, not expected to be 1-2, but the 1-2-2 zone means one of these two teams is going to be 2-2. And the Ravens are really an interesting study. 111 points in their first three games. They were only one of 13 teams in NFL history to score 40 points in their first two games. Only one of three to go 1-1 in their first two games, scoring 40 points in each of those games. And then they lose again on Monday Night Football in a battle with the Detroit Lions to be 1-2. They've scored 111 points, and they're 1-2.
Well, they've allowed the second most points of any team in the NFL, and they have a positive point differential. There's a lot to talk about with these guys. They're scoring a lot of points, and they're allowing a lot of points. Before I dive in, though, I have some quick around the world. Can I get to that real quick?
Didn't go around the world. I was so tight in at West Point. We never got the spaceship up.
I'll make it faster. We have some good ones, though. Bob is listening from Baltimore. So, Bob, we need you this week. All right, be flying your Chiefs Kingdom flag.
Lines.
Yes, sir.
Intel.
Luis is in El Paso, Texas. Been a Chiefs fan since being a little kid, and of course added "Go Miners."
Go
In
Miners.
his message. Heard from Paul in Chantilly, Virginia.
Chantilly, I believe.
Chantilly, that
Yeah, I
sounds
think
correct.
it's Chantilly, Virginia.
Chantilly, Virginia. I've been a fan since 1968. Shout out to you, Paul.
Wow.
Shout out to Jim in Loveland, Colorado. Been a fan since the 90s when he and his wife lived in Shawnee. Love that. Heard from Mark in Missoula, Montana. Been a fan his whole life. He's been surrounded by Broncos and Seahawks fans that entire time. He used some different language when he was talking about the Broncos and Seahawks that I won't say.
Is he a Grizzly fan?
He sure is.
University of
He
Montana?
ended it with "Go Grizz."
Go Grizz.
So go Grizz and go Chiefs, Mark. Then shout out to Mary Beth in Bozeman, Montana,
Oh,
for sending me a handwritten note. All right, I get this in the mail the other
Montana
day.
State. So we got the Grizzlies and the Bobcats.
We sure do.
Montana State.
And I get a handwritten note from
John
Mary Beth.
Standard's alma mater.
Mary Beth wanted to mention that it is her husband Warren's birthday this week. He's turning 62 this week. He's originally from Kansas City and converted Mary Beth from a Broncos to a Chiefs fan. I know a lot about that. 30 years ago when they got married, they've both been Chiefs fans ever since. It made my day when I got this, Mary Beth. So thank you for writing in, and shout out to you, Warren. Happy birthday.
Evangelistic dating is has been a thing for a long time. So you Kingdom defenders, yes, if you've got someone that's the love of your life, then part of it is getting them to be a Kingdom defender and love the Chiefs. Okay, but cool that we had both Montana and Montana State represented. So hey, we're equal time here. But let's jump back into the Ravens. And I'm sorry about missing the around the world. But really an interesting study, giving up 96 points. It's the most in their history, given up in the first 3 weeks of the season. It's just really kind of perplexing. And the Lions had 2 98-yard drives in this game. It's just nuts. And yet offensively, I look at all their weapons, and from comprehensive standpoint of talent, they might be the most comprehensively talented team in the NFL.
Yeah.
Offensively.
And defensively, they're really talented too, is the crazy thing. Let's talk about their defense for a minute, because I think that's the most perplexing thing here. They're allowing the most yards per game of any team in the NFL so far this season at 415. Second most passing yards per game allowed, third most rushing yards per game allowed through 3 games. Near the bottom of the league in first downs allowed, third down conversion rate, and red zone defense, and only 3 sacks so far on the opposition. And this is an interesting one via ESPN. I'm not really sure how they calculate this, but just take it for what it's worth. According to their metrics on defensive success rate against the run, Baltimore was the second best team against the run in the NFL last year, based on their metrics. Through 3 games this season, they are 32nd in the NFL against the run. And if you were watching that game on Monday night with the Lions, even if the Ravens stuffed them for 1 or 2 yards, they committed to it. They kept running the ball, and eventually they broke some big ones, and they ended up with 220 rushing yards against the Ravens in that game, and that set everything else up where you have to respect it. You have to respect that the Lions are going to run the ball, and if you do respect that, that means that guys are probably going to be open on the back end in the secondary, and that was the case throughout that game. I mean, Jared Goff was incredibly efficient, I think. I thought that 4th down throw where everyone thought they were going to run the ball with Montgomery or Gibbs, and Goff just goes up over the top and threw a perfect pass to convert. I mean, it was a great game plan by the Lions, and I'm hopeful here in this game after the running game got going a bit, I think, against the Giants last week for the Chiefs. You got to commit to the run against these guys, because if you can do that, it seems like everything else for them hasn't been working so far, but it begins with a commitment to the run game.
And let's flip it on to the other side, because let's get to our special guest, but it's trying to defend these guys. Mentioned 111 points, but you're looking at 3,500 yards combined between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry since the beginning of 2024. They're doing historic things offensively with the ball, including the fact that the leading quarterback rating of all time right now is Lamar Jackson, right there, and the fact that he's had 140-plus quarterback rating 2 times this year, and they're 1-2. And in 2 losses, he has had a rating of 140-plus. That's never happened in the history of the NFL.
That's the thing, is they've been scoring a lot of points, and he is putting up numbers. He has 9 touchdown passes, no picks this year.
No picks.
Like you said, passer rating over 140. They lead the NFL in plays of 20 or more yards with 16. Lamar, for the most part, has been awesome this year. The strange thing, though, is he's been sacked a lot. He's been sacked 12 times. Only Cam Ward has been sacked more times than Lamar Jackson. Like, I had to check that again. And watching the game on Monday, he was sacked 7 times by the Lions defense. And it was strange because one of the things that makes Lamar so special is that he's scanning, no one's open, and he should have been sacked 2 or 3 times, but makes 2 defenders miss, scrambles for 15 yards. It's backbreaking for a defense. Well, the strange thing in that game against Detroit is you kind of saw, okay, here's where Lamar's going to take off and make a big play. And the Lions were so disciplined in their escape lanes where they just didn't let that happen. And when one of those defenders had an opportunity to sack Lamar, they didn't miss. Not a lot of missed tackles in that game at all for that Lions defense. That's what the Chiefs have to do in this game. You have to be so disciplined up front where on the back end, those guys do their job for 3 or 4 seconds. No one's open. If Lamar wants to take off, you can't let him have an outlet where he can escape for 15 yards because that is what makes them so difficult to defend. If you're constantly worrying about Lamar taking off, you forget about the receiver who's 20 yards downfield. The Lions, I think, in a lot of ways showed exactly what the Chiefs have to do in this game. Be disciplined up front, and when he wants to escape and you have a chance to tackle him, you can't miss.
No, and Bateman's having the best year he's had. I think at least started off. We know Zay Flowers is explosive. They have our old foe and our old friend and our own old foe again, and DeAndre Hopkins. They have Mark Andrews, who's still trying to live off that drop. And
he was great last night, though.
He was awesome last night, but the plays in the playoffs. And that's what Lamar Jackson. It's amazing. I look at him. He's 71-25, 2-time NFL MVP. He has 3 playoff wins. That just compared to Pat's, 17. And so you're looking like, wow, okay. But the defensive front for the Chiefs have got a lot on their plate in this game because you've got to think, is Lamar running it? Or is he handing it off to Derrick Henry? Or is he going to pull it and throw it? That means there's a lot on the plate of a guy like Charles Omenihu. So why not have Charles on Defending the Kingdom to see what he's thinking of how you slow down this Ravens offense? How do you get to 2-2 and beat the Ravens? You get Charles Omenihu on Defending the Kingdom, bringing in number 90 here for the Magic. How encouraging, though, is it for the defense now to put 2 games together, like the game against the Eagles and the game against the Giants?
Yeah, it's very encouraging, honestly. We kind of started off slow week 1, and we picked it up week 2, and definitely I think this past week we definitely put our foot down and had one of those games that we're used to. So it feels good to kind of just get things rolling. I think people kind of have expectation of it to be smooth sailing all the time, but people across from us get paid too, and you just gotta make adjustments. And I think we're just gonna keep rolling, and things are gonna just continue to get better.
And looking at last week, the performance for me was particularly encouraging because you got pressure on Russ on like 54% of his dropbacks, but only blitzed 6 times.
Yeah.
So the front 4 was winning quite a bit.
Yeah.
How do you find a way to keep that going here moving forward?
Yeah, I think we just got to continue to be aggressive as a D-line. I think we got to just have a mentality of like, hey, if I make an inside move, my nose or my 3-tech is going to cover me. And if the 3-tech, Chris, is getting upfield high, you feel him. And guys are just throwing their fastballs and just going, not really kind of having too much thought process. I understand that, yes, you need to contain the quarterback, but I think when you're just a lot more aggressive, a lot more just, hey, I need to get to him kind of mentality, and I think that's how you kind of get the number to continue to go up.
That being said, here come the Ravens. They've scored 111 points in 3 games. When you have a running quarterback who's elite like Lamar Jackson, and then you get Derrick Henry in the RPO or quarterback run game by design, what are your responsibilities and the defensive as a whole slowing these guys down?
Yeah, I think with Derrick Henry, I think it starts off with just kind of cutting his legs off. I think he's a guy, once he does get going, he's tougher, but I think when you muddy up the running lanes, great running back, but it's kind of difficult for him to get going if he doesn't have a clear lane. That's kind of been his thing. So you muddy up the running lanes, and when he does kind of get a little bit of escape, knock his legs out. With Lamar, I think you just got to harass him, make it uncomfortable for him. I think he's another guy that you want to get to his legs because he's so just shifty up top. So you cut all that off, and I think you have a better opportunity of stopping those 2.
Well, and you're in the same division with Derrick Henry, so you were seeing him a lot for a while. It's not like you haven't seen him before.
Yeah.
And that Ravens game in the playoffs a couple years ago, obviously a bittersweet one for you, but you got that strip sack on Lamar.
Yeah.
How difficult is it to corral a guy like Lamar, and how good does it feel when you get him on the ground?
Yeah, it's probably a lot harder when he can see you. That one he didn't see me, so it was a little bit easier, but it felt great. I was just I always have self-talk with myself, and I told myself, man, you got to get on the board. Like, understand it is a long season, and I'm trying not to press, but I feel like this is a good opportunity, a good game for me to do that. I have had success against them, so hopefully this game is a game where I kind of just have that. Okay, now I'm ramping up. I'm ready to go. I'm getting to it type of feel.
And them not seeing you have this ability to strike because of your arm length.
Yeah.
How much of that is a weapon for you and your ability to kind of sneak up on somebody?
Yeah, I love being on the blind side, honestly, because my first thought process is strip the ball. They can't see me. They don't know I'm coming. And once they do realize, it's kind of like panic mode. So, yeah, I mean, being on the blind side for me in my career has been something I've liked. And just want to try and continue it again, get it going.
I think it's funny when you're moved inside too, though, because the guards can't handle your length. They're like freaking out. I remember when we first signed you, Mitch immediately sent me the clip of you sacking Pat back in like 2018?
2019.
Yeah.
Changed the whole game.
Yeah, and we're like, finally, we got this guy on our side now. Yeah.
Yeah, that was I remember that was the day that JJ told me I got his respect now.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, that was a game where JJ kind of looked at me as a guy that could help out, So, I memories like that always put a smile on my face, and just like I said, just keeps me upbeat as far as like slower starts. You'll get you've done this, you've done this. You're all good. Just kind of just continue, just push, and eventually it'll fall for you.
You ever reminded Pat of that moment?
Nah, I haven't. I think when I first got here, Pat had mentioned it. But that's one of my definitely when I in my house, it's definitely a photo of me with stripping Pat.
Well, I was jumping up and down when we got you because that's the play I remembered.
Yeah,
that was burned into my head. Just where this defense can go now from here on, and I'm not talking about just first level, but all three levels.
Yeah, I think we can continue just to now get to the point of dominating, where it's not like, oh, we had a good game, like a surprise anymore. It's like back to how it was last year, and especially in 23, where it was just like, this is what we do. So I think we just continue to build. The first quarter of the season is going to end after this game. So I think when you look over this first quarter of the season, this first four games, you'll see that if the defense is improving, they continue to build from that.
One thing we talk about a lot is actually since you got here, so 2023, since week one, you guys own the #1 scoring defense in the NFL.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, so you've allowed the fewest points per game of any team in the league since then. Obviously, want to keep it going. I want to ask you about one of your teammates, though, in Ashton Gelati. Seems like he has a lot of juice. Got the kick block last week, I think, against the Giants. What's impressed you about Ashton?
He blocked the kick.
Extra point, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that was him, yeah.
No, I mean, Ashton's first of all, a great rookie, first and foremost. I think Ashton has a bright future ahead of him, very promising player. I think Ashton blocking the kick is high effort and not stopping, going hard, and that he's a symbol of that. That's the first thing that you can see that pops out, and I think he has really good ability to bend in, has good hand usage, and is physical. So you have those things, and you're able to coach up with Coach Joe. I think it'll be a really, really good player for the future and continue.
High school, Humble. You were Humble? Yeah, no.
Huh?
You're high school.
Rowlett High School.
That's right, Rowlett.
Yeah.
Rowlett. Yeah. So, did you hoop?
No, I did not.
How did you not play
You
basketball?
would have been awesome at it.
If I'm the basketball coach, I'm like,
I did
begging you.
I did track in football.
Okay.
Yeah.
No hoop.
Mm-mm.
Ever? Like 8th grade, you're like dunking on
bro,
kids?
I really just like fell in love with football and stuck with football like all year round. That's all I like really did or thought about.
Can't you imagine the basketball coach like walking every class he's got? Like,
Charles, give it a chance, man.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about the 1-2-2 zone in this because two teams at 1 and 2, somebody's going 2 and 2.
Yeah.
Great. The importance of this game beyond what's obvious.
Yeah, I think it's a very important game. Obviously, you don't want to be 1 and 3. God, that won't be good. But winning this game continues to build momentum. One team is coming off a loss, one team is coming off a win. So both teams are hungry. We're hungry to get now kind of build a little winning streak, and they're hungry to kind of get that sour taste out their mouth. So it's going to be a good game. Always been a good game versus them. Great organization. Coach Harbaugh, great coach. And so they have great players there. And so it's going to be one of those games, and just got to buckle up and be ready to rock.
To the basketball coach at Rolette, Texas, we are really sorry that he didn't play hoop, but he's going to make a big play in this one. Number 90, Charles Omenihu.
Yes, sir.
Boy, do I feel sorry for that Rolette, Texas high school basketball coach.
That's crazy.
Can you imagine Charles in the hallway going, what's he doing? He's in track. Like, oh, my gosh, just stand under the basket and block shots. He has such a wingspan.
Yeah.
And we've seen it so many times, that sneaky, strip the ball. I remember the game, Week 18, the glorious win in 2023 over the Chargers when he got Easton Stick. And you never see him coming. That's the cool thing. Now, Derrick Henry's fumbled in 3 straight games, which is phenomenal. And that's been at the crux of the critical point of the game in both of the losses to the Bills and then on Monday Night Football to the Lions. So I don't think you can bank on Derrick Henry fumbling again. He's going to protect that ball with his life. But still, this defense, to get 2 takeaways for the Chiefs defense against the Giants, I thought was good because it just kind of gets them in the flow at all 3 levels to not only stop them, tackling. You mentioned it before the Omenihu interview, that the Lions were superb tacklers. You have to be in this game, and then maybe look for your chance to take the ball away.
Can I highlight how good our defense was for a second? I feel like the goalposts for like the national media are constantly moving when it comes to the Chiefs because they look at this defensive performance from last week and they say, well, the Giants are 0-3 and they just benched Russ. Well, the Giants in week 2 went crazy for 450 passing yards, over 500 yards of offense. Wan'Dale Robinson and Malik Neighbors combined for 17 grabs, 309 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And coming into Sunday Night Football, they're feeling pretty good. I mean, they showed what they could do offensively, right? Well, the Chiefs completely shut them down throughout that game. Just complete domination. New York goes 1 of 10 on 3rd down and 1 of 4 on 4th down in that game. They got crazy pressure on Russell Wilson throughout. I kind of mentioned it with Charles, but Chris Jones had 7 pressures, George Karlaftis 7 pressures, and Omar Norman Lott had 5 pressures. Almost destroyed Russ, had that sack or near sack where he went over him. Someone else cleaned up. But the best part of the performance, in my opinion, was they got pressure on 54% of Wilson's dropbacks, only blitzed 6 times.
Gigantic.
So their front 4 was getting wins. Going into that game, the Chiefs were blitzing at like a 45% clip, which if it gets home, that's great, but you want to count on your front 4 to get pressure, and didn't see a ton of it through the first 2 weeks. We got a lot of it against Wilson and the Giants on Sunday night. Need some more of that here against the Ravens, but I feel really good about our defense overall. We knew they had the talent coming into this season. I think week 1 was a bit of a mystery. Like, we know they're better than that. In the last 2 weeks, they've been better than that, and got to keep it going here against the Ravens.
I also like what I saw from the Chiefs offense in the second half. That drive of 11 plays, 74 yards. When you look at the balance in that, 6 runs, but 4 of those were on first down, averaging 6 yards a run. That set up the 5 passing plays because the first run set up the very next play, which is off a similar action that fooled the Giants defense, which was great up front. We saw how good those guys were. And then getting into the red zone, the play to Tyquan Thornton for the 5-yard touchdown was a play pass. So when you run and get that going and in that flow, that was good to see. And then for Tyquan Thornton. But I think you and I are in agreement here. We were texting each other during the Monday Night Football game. You almost have to zero on trying to get 30 points in this game. 24 ain't going to cut it. Field goals aren't going to cut it. You need touchdowns, and it would behoove the Chiefs to try to figure out a way to get to 30 points.
And with that in mind, it was good to see Tyquan really kind of step up and be like that guy last week. We've talked about how this part of the season with no Worthy and no Rasheed has been about survival. Maybe we'll get Worthy back this week. I don't know for sure. We'll find out as the week goes on. That'd be great if we did. But regardless, having Tyquan step up like he did against the Giants is a big deal because 3rd and 3, trying to get the ball in the end zone in the red zone, 5-yard touchdown. And he wasn't Mahomes' first read on that play. The play itself wasn't open, and then Tyquan got open in the back of the end zone. Awesome throw and catch. And then 3rd and 6 later on in the game, 21-yard catch where he was not the target. Pretty sure Hollywood Brown was the target, going back and looking back at it. Juju Smith-Schuster was there as well. But Tyquan held on, moved the chains. And then 3rd and 10, after he had just barely not caught the ball, it hit the ground a little bit on a big play. They go right back to him. He hauls in a 33-yard catch, sets up Kareem's 1-yard touchdown run, essentially put the game away. To develop that trust and that relationship with Mahomes, where Mahomes is like the defender barreling in on him, I'm just going to throw it up for Tyquan, and I know he's going to come down with it. That's a big deal. And I think once we get through this part of the season where we have Xavier and Rasheed back later on, having Tyquan as another option that Mahomes trusts ironically, we might look back at this time and be like, that was really beneficial where they had to develop a relationship. They had no choice. It wasn't like Taekwon's going to get 2 targets a game and we'll figure it out. Like they had to develop it. And hopefully in January, we're talking about Taekwon making a big play. And we look back at last week and say, that's kind of where that trust was formed.
Well, and the 33-yarder, after he didn't complete the catch on the 34-yarder, the previous play, it's like running the 400 meters in a prelim, and you got to run the finals right after the first 400 meters. It was amazing in what he did there. The other thing I was encouraged about was seeing the jet sweep, flip pass, end around action. Okay, because you can run that a bunch of different ways. Remigio gets a double-digit one, but Brashard Smith showing up just a little bit, enough on the radar where you're going to have to account for him, and then you get, hopefully, Xavier Worthy this week. But that action, that side-to-side action, has been a staple of this offense in winning 3 Super Bowls and slowing down pass rushers and actually helping the interior run game. Now, in case you haven't noticed, we are in the 1-2-2 zone. But we have company in the 1-2-2 zone in the AFC West because there are 3 1-2 teams in the AFC West looking to go 2-2 like the Chiefs are. But Ari Wolfe is our guy that keeps a really close eye on the other 3 division teams and everything around the National Football League. Let's check in with Ari.
Welcome, everyone, to the podcast within the podcast. Defending the Kingdom, that's the big podcast. And I just come in for a little slice. We're calling this Out West with Ari Wolfe. And what an honor. I get both Mitch Holthus and Matt McMullen for our second ever edition of our little segment here. And guys, look, it's got to feel really good in the Kingdom to get that win last week. It was a hard-fought game on Sunday, but get the win. I got a feeling people are breathing a little easier in the Kingdom.
Well, we got back at like 4 o'clock in the morning on a Monday morning. And yeah, landing in Kansas City at 4 a.m. is a lot better after you get your first win of the year. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. The air smells, fresher, and yeah, it's everything affects everything. There's more chlorophyll in the world now.
I'm telling you, look, it had been a while, right? The last win was the AFC Championship game. So, for Chiefs Kingdom, that's a long wait, right? All right, but let's get into the AFC West because that's what this segment is focused on. So there was a huge game last week. You had the Broncos at the Chargers, and I watched every single play of it. Now, last week, Matt, I think you'll remember, I was really bullish on the depth of the division. I'm a hair less bullish after watching that game. Well, I think the Chargers defense is exceptional. And I think Justin Herbert, they've taken the shackles off, right? They're letting him sling it. I mean, he's throwing the ball so much more this year than Harbaugh had him throw it last year. The injuries are going to take a toll, right? Slater, done for the year. Khalil Mack, they kind of caught a break there, guys, right? He's only going to be out a few weeks. But then Najee Harris is out for the year. So, look, you can overcome an injury or two, but sometimes those seasons kind of snowball a little bit. I'm wondering what your guys' take was on that game because while I think the Broncos are solid, I just don't think that Bo Nix is an elite quarterback. So I think that holds them back a little bit. But I think that the division is still there for the take for the Chiefs. But what were your guys' takeaways from that game?
Well, I wish I could show you my father-in-law, who is a Broncos fan, the text he was sending me immediately after that game, a little bit in SFW with the language that was being used about some of the Broncos decision-making late in the game, particularly with that 4th down. It's funny because we were already at MetLife when that game was going on, and I missed most of it, but going back and looking at it, it does seem like a game that the Chargers normally in the past would have found a way to lose, and they found a way to win it, which I'll give them credit for.
I think, Ari, this league that was razor thin last year, you almost need what a jeweler wears when they're working on like this fine piece of jewelry that looks at things at 1/64th of an inch. I look at the Broncos at 1-2 and think about the way they've lost their 2 games.
Yeah.
It is just it's microscopic. Now, last year, the Chiefs won 12 straight one-possession games. Matt and I joke about it, and it was like, well, you can't live like that. Like, there's no way you can continue that. Well, some teams, like we're going to get into the Eagles blocking a field goal, that's just gritty, right? So the point is, whether you think it's luck or not, we're down to very thin margins. And I think here's the Chargers now, but at 3-0, and their schedule gets favorable. But the point is, it's still a very thin margin in the AFC West and really throughout the league.
And I want to get to the Raiders. I think Pete Carroll is a guy that you bring him into any organization, you get instant energy, right? That guy is just so fun to be around. At his age, I think he's a great role model for everybody, right? I hope to be kicking butt like Pete Carroll is when I'm the same age. But the Geno Smith thing through 3 games, it doesn't look good. Now, granted, it's a small sample size, but I think I kind of got excited for Pete after they won week 1 at New England. I think, Geno Smith the last couple of weeks has really struggled. So I'm just going to say I'm just not as bullish on the overall depth within the division. But, I do think that look at the way the division is, it's the Chargers right now clearly in front, and the schedule does get easier. And I want to get to next week's game. Let's use that as a segue. Them going to the Giants, and they're playing a rookie quarterback in Jackson Dart. I mean, that really seems to set up nicely for Justin Herbert and the Bolts. What do you guys think?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because one thing that Mitch and I were joking around with last week was if the Giants hadn't exploded against the Cowboys like they did offensively, we could have seen Jackson Dart last week, and it would have been like a very us situation to everyone thinks we're going to win, get our first win of the year, Sunday Night Football, and they start Jackson Dart, and he goes crazy because there's no film on him and no one knows what to expect.
Right.
I mean, yeah, on paper, the Chargers should beat the Giants, but I mean, who knows? I mean, I'm kind of excited to see what Jackson Dart has, and like I mentioned, there's no film on him. No one really knows what to expect with him, so maybe he'll go crazy against the Chargers. I mean, I doubt it with their defense being as good as it is, but you never know.
Well, I don't think Malik Neighbors is going to have 2 catches for 13 yards, as good as that Charger defense.
Fair enough.
And if Cam Scatabo doesn't touch the ball 25 times in this game, there needs to be a congressional inquiry. Now, they had lost Tyrone Tracy in our game to injury, and like that kid, and they've got, the other running back, the Bills guy, but Cam Scatabo.
Devin Singletary.
Sorry, Devin Singletary. But Cam Scatabo is a beast as a runner and as a catcher. And if they use him more of as a centerpiece, and even with Jackson Dart's running ability, all of a sudden now they give you a lesser version of what we'll see this week when you have a quarterback who can run and a dynamic runner. And that sets up RPOs and different run opportunities and passing off the run. But Scatabo now I think he's a star in the making.
A star in the making in that market, right? In New York. I just think he's the perfect fit. I mean, given they've had a lack of star power, and then you get a guy like him who's sort of an extra effort guy, an overachiever kind of guy. I think whoever his agent is, he's going to be getting a lot of off the field deals. I think Cam, if you're betting on futures, I think he's a good one to look at. All right, let's look at one of the Monday night games. You've got the Bengals, no Joe Burrow, are going to the Broncos. It feels a little like there's pressure on the Broncos, right? Like, even though it's early in the season, now this seems like a must-win game with no Joe Burrow. What are your guys' take on the Monday night matchup?
Well, they have the Eagles right after that. So I think for Denver, this is a must win. And again, based on my father-in-law's texts, I think people are getting a little bit nervous in Denver. I mean, there was so much offseason hype about the Broncos, about how this was their opportunity to really push the Chiefs in the division. It kind of feels like the Chargers are the one that has kind of taken over that role of being the team that's going to challenge us. And Denver has all the talent in the world, I think, but it's still a very young team. And one thing I always think about with teams like this, it's one thing to kind of surprise people and to win games. It's another when you're expected to win, particularly when you're as young as they are. So, yeah, I mean, it is a big game. The Bengals did not look good last week against Minnesota. Jake Browning's better than that, though. We've seen what Jake Browning can do a couple years ago when he almost got them in the playoffs. So I expect Cincinnati to be better. Their defense has still struggled a lot, though, this year, and we'll see what Bo Nix can do against them.
Hey, Mitch, I want to get your take specifically on Sean Payton. I really question why he put it out there that he thinks that this team is elite and that Bo Nix is a future superstar. Just try to explain to me why he would put that extra pressure on his team. I realize you maybe want to build some hype, but Sean Payton's a veteran coach. You would never hear an Andy Reid do something like that. I was curious what your take is on Sean Payton and how he was really trying to convince everyone before a single down was played that the Broncos were for real.
One of the most compelling stats in NFL history is that no coach who has won a Super Bowl with a franchise has ever won another one with another one. It's never happened. Never happened. So we can go down through the line. Even our Hank Stram couldn't get it done. But there have been so many coaches that have tried and failed. But one of the if you do a case study on why that hasn't happened is because the coach who goes to the next spot tries to make the next spot their last spot. And I think that there is a strategical error there, meaning I think maybe where Coach Payton got ahead of himself, at least publicly, was to thinking this is Drew Brees. This is the New Orleans Saints of 2009. And this is what we are. And I think that that's a bit premature. There's a ton of talent. That defense is for real. They have no weakness on that defense, and they've got some underrated dudes along with premier players. But the point is, they're the Broncos. They're not the Saints. And I kind of noticed it here a little bit when we had Coach Vermeil, because there were 2 years. The first 2 years, we're gonna be the Rams of '99, and that didn't work. In fact, it really impeded the progress of what we needed to make in the first 2 years by trying to make us what the last stop was. And so I think that's probably the adjustment that Sean Payton's going to have to make. It's not the Saints, it's the Broncos, and the Broncos are going to have to win it their own way.
Yeah, and at least for now, Bo Nix is not Drew Brees. All right, my game of last week. It's hard to compare the Giants-Cowboys game from the week before because that was just off the charts madness. But I chose the Rams at the Eagles game. The Rams did so many things right. I mean, but the thing was, in the first half, they ended up settling for a bunch of field goals when they had a chance to blow the game wide open. The game ends up coming down to the wire. Last week, we talked about in the Cowboys game that the state of kicking in the NFL has completely changed. Like, I don't understand how now a 64-yarder is just no big deal. Well, and we're talking about the evolution of mankind. Explain to me how Jordan Davis at 6'6", 336 pounds can run 18.59 miles per hour, block the kick, and then literally just sprint into the end zone. It was one of the wildest finishes I've ever seen. I know you guys are busy on Sunday, but what was your take on Jordan Davis in the end of that game?
This is such like trying to think of the right word for this. Hater is a wrong word, but in my mind, didn't the clock was at triple zeros when he was running it back, right?
Yes.
So in my mind, shouldn't he just have gone down? I get it was exciting and the crowd's going nuts and he returns it for a touchdown and that's your instinct. But like, what if like the ball got punched out from behind him and the Rams ran it all the way back?
Don Beebe, Leon Lett back in the day. I mean, there's some receiver, some speedy guys out there lurking around and going to chase him down. But yeah, that's to your point.
I mean, yeah, it was a great show of athleticism. I don't love the Eagles, so maybe that's why I'm thinking this way. But in my mind, it was a coaching point where that was really cool, Jordan Davis. But maybe next time, don't return it all the way for a touchdown and allow the Rams to still have a chance. But incredible finish. And you know what's funny? Maybe you saw this. So I was at MetLife, and all the TVs were on different games right next to each other. That kick happened at the same time as the Browns-Packers field goal, where the Browns beat the Packers. Like, it was like simultaneous. I almost thought we'd see 2 game-winning field goals at once, but we got one in the Browns, not so much with the Rams.
To me, I'm going to look at it on a broader basis because they're in a span of about felt like an hour. There were like 6 block kicks. Now Matt knows. Right. Now, Matt knows, Ari, I love block kicks. There is no better sound in football than the thud of a block punt.
That thud.
It's awesome. If I came back in another life, I would be the thud of the kick. Like but all of a sudden, and there'll be maybe 1 a month or 2 a month. I may not chart them. And all of a sudden, there's like 6 in an hour. Like boom, boom, boom. The Jets game, right? And the Jets do it. They run back. And I go, too soon. You guys should have put down at the 1 and run clock because Mayfield's going to come back and win this game. Mm-hmm. But the fact that there were all these block kicks that happen in a quick span, it tells you now that you mentioned the athleticism. Some of these defensive front guys are becoming so athletic. And in the Jets game, like McDonald, he jumped over the blockers. It wasn't leverage. I didn't use Matt to jump over to block your kick. He just like a high jump and block the kick. These guys are getting so athletic that who knows? I mean, you're just surprised every week, but man, to have that many block kicks in a short amount of time was blowing my mind.
Well, on that note, I'm curious whether there's talk in the facility for the Chiefs. If you really need a block, like I feel like Chris Jones should be on the field, right? Is that something that you think will maybe get a second look? Because you're seeing the guys with his kind of physical stature in there being able to kind of blow up. And if they don't get the block, the guy near him, and maybe not doing it on special teams every time, but sometimes those late game situations call to have your very best players on the field. What do you think about potentially a guy like Chris Jones starting to play and try to get in there to block some kicks? Or
Charles Omenihu, who we had on the podcast right before you because his wingspan is so long. But the Chiefs, and Matt knows this, he and I talk about this all the time. The Chiefs talk about 1/64th of an inch. We're 1/64th of it. How many block kicks have we missed by?
We've been this close
on the Giants game.
Yeah.
It's like, how did that even miss? It was Shamari Connor.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's like, that's right there. And so we're getting there. We're going to block some kicks, maybe this week.
Yeah, maybe this week, hopefully. It gets me thinking about when we used to have Tano Passanio, who was like 6'10" or something crazy, and he blocked like 2 extra points over the course of like 3 weeks. Yeah, I mean, it's what changes games. And I think looking at the Chiefs-Giants game last week, I think it was Ashton Gelati blocking that extra point. I get that the Giants didn't have their normal kicker, but blocking that extra point was a big deal in the game because the game remained tied. Being down 7-6, it was still very early, but still just like morale wise and for the feel of the game, I think blocking that extra point was a big deal. So,
and to your point, our missed extra point against the Chargers in week 1, we were ready to shift the pressure to the Chargers sideline.
Yep.
They exhale going, we're still up 1.
Yeah.
So same deal.
Same deal. All right. So to me, the game of this week coming up on the schedule, it's no secret. It's the Ravens and the Chiefs. I don't know anybody who had them coming in at 1 and 2, right? But, I think that we are seeing that, the AFC is going to be really competitive. Like you said, it's just little things are going to decide games. What I've seen from Baltimore, though, they've got a real problem. Derrick Henry now has a fumbling problem, right? If you fumble in 3 straight games, you've got an issue because now it's in his head. And every single defender on that Kansas City Chiefs team is thinking, hey, we got a chance to get the ball out on Derrick Henry. I imagine that they're always working on trying to get the ball right, but it's got to be extra tantalizing when you're going up against a future Hall of Famer who suddenly has a fumbling problem.
I think it's when they happen too. The Ravens should have beaten the Bills. I think we all agree on that they had that game in hand and they found a way to give it to Buffalo. And they were right there with Detroit in that game on Monday where they had an opportunity to go down there and take the lead, but they fumbled the ball away late. Not all fumbles are created equally. And for a team like Baltimore that is so talented and has aspirations of winning the AFC, to be kind of allowing teams to either get back into the game or giving away an opportunity for you to go take the lead late in the fourth quarter is not a great sign. So for them, I mean, I expect them to come into this game laser focused. For the Chiefs, though, late in the game, we've seen Kansas City over 7-8 years be so good in those late game situations. We got to be good in those situations once again here in this game, because with Baltimore, we've seen what happens if you're not.
I'm mystified at Baltimore's defense. How do you give up 2 98-yard drives? And these weren't tricky runs. I mean, the Detroit offensive line, these were base plays. And Montgomery and Gibbs are good. I know I like both those guys, but Baltimore's getting blown off the ball. And so I just sat there, was watching, like, what team am I watching? Because usually the Ravens are just the opposite of that. And so I don't think Henry's going to sew the ball to the ventricles of his heart.
Like Friday Night Lights, like tape too.
It's taped. It'll be it'll be
right?
Gray tape around his body. But then Baltimore's defense, the Chiefs now, one of the encouraging signs, I said there's more chlorophyll in the earth now because the Chiefs won the game. But the cool thing, the good thing was in the second half, you started to see glimpses, like the 11-play, 74-yard drive to start the second half, 6 runs, 5 passes. Both were working off each other. And you're going to have to somehow get to 30 points in this game to beat Baltimore, right? They've got 111 points in 3 weeks. So, but that and the side-to-side game, like Brashard Smith, in what we have seen the Chiefs offense do with jet sweeps and flip passes and end arounds, that started to happen in this game for the first time since that AFC Championship game back against the Bills way back when. So that, to me, gives me some hope that the offense could get into a rhythm a bit and then try to score on these guys and try to get to 30 or more.
All right. Well, Mitch, this is your first time with us for this. We like to do a parting thought, and it's really in honor of how much I've loved watching PTI all these years, that they always have like a final thought, just something to think about. For me, the play that Patrick Mahomes made late in the second quarter, to me, maybe the play we look back on as the play that changed the season. And he said afterwards he didn't want a lot of credit because it was his mistake. But I've watched that play about a half a dozen times. It's one thing to recognize that you've thrown it backwards. I think some quarterbacks would just hope it was, people thought it was an incomplete pass. It's not just the recognition, the physicality and the athleticism to go strip a guy of that size at the 5-yard line was one of the most breathtaking plays I've ever seen in my entire life. What other quarterback could do that or would have had the presence of mind? You're in a 6-6 game on the road. You're potentially about to go down 13-6 and you're 0-2, right? That moment to me, if they'll go on and win their 5th Lombardi and everything's great and we're all celebrating, you guys are getting sized up for rings, you're going to look back at that play from Patrick Mahomes. It wasn't sexy, but man, it was an incredible play that to me might have changed the entire complexion of the season. That is my final thought. Now let's go to Matt.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I didn't even realize in the moment that he had punched the ball out like he did. I just thought he fell on a loose ball. Then I watched the replay again, and I don't know. I couldn't believe it. The wherewithal to know that of everything you said, that the ball was live, to go out there and to punch it out and to fall on it. One of the many reasons Mahomes is what he is. My parting thought, those listening to the rest of the podcast already know about this, but Mitch and I went to West Point last week before the game, went out there a little bit early. I won't get too into details because I already said all this earlier on the pod, but it was just so much fun to go out there and to share a really cool experience with this guy because, we work crazy hours and away from our families a lot. And it's a grind, right? As much as we love football. But to go out there and to have a really cool once in a lifetime experience and share it with this dude was a lot of fun. So that's my parting thought for this week.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I wish everybody could be on post and see that. Going back to the Pat play, what's crazy is the exact scenario happened just minutes earlier. The exact play.
Right.
And you mentioned, I called it out on the air. I go, I think that's a lateral.
Yeah, you did. You called
it. And then the Giants didn't react. And they did, but Pat reacted. And because Josh Simmons picks it up and then Pat's over and grabbing the ball, he wasn't going to leave it to chance. And that's to your point. Right. And so to have it happen just minutes later, because you don't see that happen once every 3 months. And then Pat to go make the play on Bobby Okereke is a really good player. My parting thought is I think it's really cool that you've got a map of the world behind you to educate your children on where places are on the earth. I think that's just awesome. And that fires me up. I think I'll go put one up in my living room.
Well, like I said, I told you guys before we came on, I got it literally weeks after my daughter was born. And you'd be amazed how often it comes up, right? Every time there's an international NFL game, anytime somebody I know is traveling somewhere, my kids will always be show me where on the map. Where is it? They know exactly where Kansas City is now. They know where a lot of the different NFL cities that we travel to. And so the map has been a good thing. I don't know if you know this, but before I became a broadcaster, I wanted to be a high school history teacher and a coach. I wanted to coach at that level. So I never got to do those things because I aspired to broadcasting, but in this little way with my kids, I get to act like a little bit of a teacher. But look, Mitch, anytime you want to join us, this is awesome. Having the three of us together reminds me of the live streams at training camp that I have so much fun doing. So I hope you guys enjoyed. This was a ton of fun.
Yeah, we appreciate you, Ari. It brought us some good luck going into last week's game.
We're 1-0.
Yeah.
1-0.
Let's keep it going.
Where's Uzbekistan? Where's Uzbekistan? All right, thanks to Ari Wolfe right there. So many close games, and we're seeing teams. But you talk about the moving goalpost narrative of the Chiefs. Remember last year, 12 straight one-possession wins. They're man, you can't live like that. But other teams are doing it this year. And it's well, they're just gritty and gutty, and they blocked a field goal. So that's what you do when you win games. Isn't that what the Chiefs did against the Broncos? But, no, you can't live off that.
I guess this is the tax when you win 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. People just want to discount what you do. I've talked about this before, but hopefully we can get on a run here. I think this is such an awesome opportunity where we can get to December, and if the Chiefs can lock up the division, we can look back and be man, can you believe this team started 0-2 and had to fight to get that win in New York? But that's the beauty of this team and the beauty of being at the top, right, is you're constantly fighting to stay there. It's difficult to sustain success, and no team has been better at it than the Chiefs over the last 10 years, 13 years since Coach Reid got here. And that's why really throughout this whole thing, obviously you want to see the Chiefs win every single week, but our confidence has never wavered in this team. And I'm excited to see what we can do against Baltimore, because you go out there against a team that you think will be there with you in the end in the AFC. And this is a chance to show that we're still right there with them.
We have something in common.
What's that?
Women in our lives who actually we've survived because of them.
Yeah, well, Ellie's, I could hear Ellie's voice in my head when we were at West Point. Did you put sunscreen on? And in my brain, I'm wait, no, I didn't. I better find some.
When we were watching, we were watching 2 regiments of the brigade on review. It was cool on Saturday morning. But your mom and my wife both played Division I basketball.
Sure did, yeah. And I told you my mom was recruited to West Point and respectfully said, I don't think that lifestyle is for me.
But yeah, she did. So
10
she
seconds.
goes to Mississippi State and then Tennessee. So
Yep.
big-time programs. My wife played at K-State and was a 4-year starter for them. So don't ask us. Ask them about the 1-2-2 zone.